Pomni genuinely has one of the best character arcs I have ever seen, and genuinely no one really talks about it in its entirety. We just quickly talk one or two sentences about it and just overlook it. Like, everyone is out here discussing about lore, Caine's whole deal, him being gone, abstraction, which, yeah, all of them are great, but the actual reason why this show hits super hard, as it does, is because how Pomni develops as a character, and I feel that part gets skipped over a lot. Because here's the thing, the person Pomni is in episode 8 is completely different from the person that she was in episode 1. And I don't mean she's less panicking, I mean fundamentally as a person she has changed, and the show earns every single step of that. No sudden jumps, no reset buttons, just a slow and real, actually kind of painful to watch. I mean fundamentally as a person she has changed, and the show shows that in every single step. There's no sudden jumps, there's no reset button, it's just a slow and real thing that we see over time where Pomni just slowly develops into a more confident version of herself, a version of herself that looks completely different from episode 1. So that's what we're going to get into today. Not a recap, not here's what happened. I just want to break down how she actually changes, what caused it, and why writing works as well as it does in the Amazing Digital Circus, and how that writing helped her with her character arc. Because when you zoom out and you look at the full picture, it's kind of insane how well constructed Pomni is as a character. Alright, before we can talk about how she changes, we actually need to establish where she starts. The very first thing Pomni does in the pilot is try to rip the headset off of her. Not look around, not ask questions, rip the headset off of her. And you don't see this headset in episode 1, but she later refers to this in episode 5. But let's continue. She's trying to undo this before she even fully understands where she is. She doesn't, and when it doesn't work, she just runs. Every door, every corner, every possible exit, she's looking for a way out. That's her whole thing in the pilot, escape. Nothing else matters, nothing else is real. This is temporary, she just needs to find the door. And there's this detail the show frozen quietly through her design that I think is doing a lot of work. She's a jester, a performer. Her whole look is built around entertaining people, and yet she's falling apart. She isn't really entertaining anyone. She's a jester, but not a jester who's actually doing anything. She is doing the opposite of what her costume is. She's slowly falling apart and losing herself. Then episode 5 drops her backstory to us, and suddenly the pilot completely hits differently. Remember how I was talking about the headset? This is where we learned about how she got into the headset. She was an accountant, and she found her life as an accountant boring, so to find some thrill in life, she explored old, abandoned buildings, and in one of those abandoned buildings, she put on a headset, and boom, that headset led her to Digital Circus. And she wasn't even trying to, So she wasn't even trying to run towards something exciting. She was just trying to, find a distraction from her boring life, where she was an accountant and everything, where she couldn't stand it. And now she's desperately trying to get back to the same life that she was once in. And that's the kind of detail that makes you go back and rewatch the pilot with completely different eyes. She doesn't just fear the circus, she's fighting to return to something she was already miserable in. And that tension, that unresolved thing underneath all the panic, is what her whole arc is really built around. Her whole arc is built around, hey, I want to try to escape the circus, and over time we see that this mission changes. She doesn't want to return back to that old boring life. She partially does want to, but she later learns to embrace some parts of her new life. So the most obvious change in Pomni across the entire series is how she handles her anxiety. Because what I think is really cool about the show is she doesn't magically get better over time. It's actually a slow process that, works, and she slowly improves, and you can see how she improved. In the pilot episode, she has nothing, she freezes, she spirals, she nearly abstracts completely alone in the void. That's rock bottom. That's someone with zero tools and zero support. And in episode 3, when she gets paired with Kinger for the Haunted Mansion, Kinger's not the most stable of everyone. He's the one that's considered mentally unstable, but because of the darkness, because of the moment that Kinger was able to be lucid, he had a heart-to-heart with Pomni. And that heart-to-heart with Pomni calmed Pomni down. It helped her with her anxiety, and it set her on the path of slowly getting rid of that anxiety. And she's not alone. She has people that can now give her support. She has Ragatha. She has Kinger. She has these people who would actually care about her. Kinger less so, but Kinger, with that heart-to-heart, has done so much to help her. It sounds so small, but it's actually the key to everything, because from this point forward, she chooses to engage with someone instead of trying to retreat to this panic. She gets a bit better. And every connection she built, Ragatha, Kinger, and bits of Jax, helps her with her anxiety. And by episode 7, her anxiety is basically gone. The reason isn't time, and it isn't Caine's adventure. It isn't anything external. It's purely that she kept choosing people over isolation. Unlike Jax, who chose to go down this path of isolation that led to him slowly losing his mind, Pomni chose the path of being with people, engaging with people, and that helped fix her anxiety. And the show is pretty good at making that point clear. It is a quiet thing that they try to make clear, but it's a thing that I respect Goose for doing, because it shows a lot in Pomni's growth as a character. This is honestly the part of her arc that hits the hardest for me, because the circus is generally brutal to people who genuinely care about things. Pomni caring about Gummy Goo, an NPC who's literally just code, but starts questioning his own existence. Pomni helps him, genuinely, and then he gets deleted by the end of the episode anyways, because, Caine can't let anyone have any fucking fun, people. Caine doesn't want you to have fucking fun. So right away the show is telling you, caring costs something here. You extend yourself and the world just takes it all away. And Pomni keeps doing it anyway. Here's the thing, she doesn't close off after Gummy Goo. Well, she partially does, but she doesn't completely close off. She keeps reaching to people, even when it becomes a bit difficult. The Jax dynamic is the best example of this. Jax's whole worldview is that nothing matters, everyone is just playing a role, and you might as well not get attached to anything. And episode 6 is basically the show asking, has Pomni bought into this or not? She tries to play along with everything, she lets loose. They might actually win the survival game together, and then she tries to hug him, and he immediately shuts her down and says nothing. Says that it all meant nothing. And she goes in on him. She straight up tells him he's lying. He's avoiding real moments. He's scared of them. And that shutting himself is going to just destroy him. That is not Pilot Pomni. Pilot Pomni could barely hold herself together, let alone see through someone else's walls. The fact that she is able to do this, and she's developed as a character, she's grown as a character to do this, she has matured to do this, shows a lot. Then episode 8 does this thing where it kind of floored me. Caine's nightmare sequences hit Pomni with Gummy Goo, turned into a feral beast and tears her apart. Her deepest fear isn't death or abstraction, it's getting close to someone and watching it all fall apart. That fear goes all the way back to episode 2, and the show held on to everything until the exact right moment. Her arc with connection isn't clean. She just learned to trust people story. It's much messier. She kept choosing to care while being genuinely terrified of every connection would eventually hurt her. Her arc with, having these connections is she kept making them. She kept trying to get close to people, even if people didn't want to get close to her. And ultimately, that showed a lot in her character. She was developing into this character that was trying to help others instead of not helping them. She stops trusting Caine completely. This thread is kind of running in the background of the whole series, but it matters a lot for where she ends up. Early on, Pomni's relationship with Caine is just fear and confusion. He's in charge, he controls everything. She doesn't have to read on him yet. What she figures out is not good. His adventures aren't for them, they're for him. He's not actually listening to what anyone needs or anybody wants. He's just doing whatever keeps him entertained and calls it care. Episode 7 is where this breaks down completely. Caine fakes an escape opportunity, lets everyone's hope build up, and then pulls a rug on them. And in this episode, we truly see it destroys everyone. But even with Pomni was simply left speechless. She was trying to figure out, why is this happening? Why would Caine do this? And this matters because it gets to her in episode 8. She was never able to truly tell Caine how she felt. And when the group needs to distract Caine, while Kinger's working on the code, Pomni's the one that goes the hardest on him. She tells him his ideas are straight up terrible. He doesn't listen. He's a bad host to his face. No one enjoys his adventures. The person that was shaking in front of Caine in episode 1 is now the one that's leading the charge against him. She's not scared of him. She's seen through, and that shift took the whole series for her to get into. She had the confidence to finally stand up to the man himself, Caine. Okay, this is the part that truly matters a lot. In the beginning of episode 8, Pomni tells the group, hey, maybe they should stop trying to chase for an exit. Maybe the goal right now isn't to escape, but it's to somehow survive the circus. And damn, that is a girl who spent the entire pilot sprinting for every door she could find. That's a person that couldn't accept the circus as real for even a second. She is the one who gets there first. The reason that works is because it's not sudden. It's not a moment where the show decides she's changed. It's the result of every episode. And Pomni slowly and kind of accidentally building a life that she never planned to build. She's made these friendships, but also it is the fear of what happens when we escape. What do we do? We should try to survive the circus together, because she's afraid that if they don't stick together, they're all going to be miserable. They're all going to do something that they all will slowly abstract. And this truly shows her as a character. She went from a person trying to actively fight for everyone to escape the circus to the one who's like, we need to stop trying to escape. We need to figure out, what is this circus? And that shows a lot of growth in a character. So yeah, that's Pomni's character arc. Panic to clarity, isolation to connection, running from everything to actively trying to choose something. What makes it all work is the show never skips steps. Pomni never just wakes up fine one day and everything's solved. Every change traces back to something specific, a relationship, a moment, a choice she made when she could have made a different one. By the time you hit episode 8, you completely believe who she's become, because you saw every single thing that built her. You saw these small moments slowly add up. That heart-to-heart with Kinger build up. The lesson with Gummy Goo. The conversations with Jax. The conversations with Ragatha. Her slowly accepting that there is no escape in the circus. This all built her. Episode 9 is dropping June 19th of this year. And honestly, at this point, I care more about where Pomni actually goes from here than I really care about any lore reveals. I care about how Goose and the rest of the team decides to finish off Pomni's character arc and also Jax's character arc, because she is truly the emotional core of this show. She's one of the things that has made this show what it is, and it's generally going to be curious what she does in the end. And genuinely, she's one of the best character arcs I have seen in indie animation, maybe almost competing with V's character arc, but V's character arc was unique where it was a redemption arc, unlike Pomni's where it was a slow, gradual change of the character where she changed herself from this anxious person to someone who's confident, someone who's a leader. So, yeah. So, folks, that's the end of the video. Drop in the comments what you think was the biggest moment for Pomni's development. I feel like there's a few things I glossed over that could actually, start a good argument in the comments down below. Subscribe if you want the final breakdown when it drops eventually. Like, share, comment down below. You all know the drill. I will see you next time. Pains are out.